Shout out Sniper T on the beat.
Tamara to the break of dawn is on the rise, with life on the forefront of the mind. So line for line, you can ride this brain train and you can change your station without even touching the dial. So relax, stay a little bit, but listen for a while. And whether you're bumping this in the whip or in a business fit, it's a meeting you won't want to miss. A meeting for a meal to feed the soul with words for the mind. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Time to take off, it's time to fly. Cause Tamara till the break of dawn is on the rise.
Hey, y'all. It's me, Tamara, and the studio audience is out on hiatus. You probably can tell I sound sick, and it's just a cold, but what I will say is COVID has definitely taught me how gross we used to be as a society. For example, and some of y'all might still do this, but going to birthday parties and letting folks breathe all over the cake while they blow out the candles, like that is disgusting. And that's stuff that we used to do without even thinking about it. I think about a lot of things more now with COVID. But welcome to the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. New listeners, new episodes drop every Thursday. So come on back through, and on my day 1, 2, 3, 53, 76, whatever week you came in, all y'all supporters, thank you so much for continuing to listen, watch, or however you consume the content. I'm noticing an increase in my YouTube views per episode, so I appreciate that. I've never had a ton, but I would always just keep uploading it because I've always felt like be wherever the people are. So I would just upload every week regardless, but I'm starting to notice more people are starting to watch every week, which is pretty dope. Go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I have noticed a few new subscribers, so shout out to y'all. I don't know if it's people that listen and hear me say this every week or if it's just random people, but the link to that is in the episode notes. And if you're not, you should totally follow me on social media. Now, let me just get into this episode. It's called Words of Wisdom, as you can see. It's going to be related to business, relationships, and pursuing your goals. It's going to be a quick episode. I'm not going to give you a ton of background information on anything. It may or may not be related to my life or anything I've personally experienced. It may be something that I just saw somebody else go through. It don't even matter because these words of wisdom are still applicable regardless. So, let's get into words of wisdom related to business, guys. Professionalism matters. Professionalism matters if you are a leader, so you don't even have to be the business owner. If you are in a management position, you need to uphold the expectations that you have of your team. If you are not, that is actually very foolish and irresponsible as a leader, and it also will decrease employee morale. So, professionalism matters even when you're dealing with your friends and family. Now, as a new entrepreneur, a lot of my clientele has been friends or family. Prime example, one of my family members is one of my monthly content creation clients. I made them sign a service contract just like I do every other client, sent them an invoice and all that good stuff, sent them a payment receipt. Like any friends that reach out to me to discuss services or whatever, I'll answer a few questions via text or DM or whatever, but then once it gets to, okay, this needs to be a more extensive conversation, then I'll suggest that they schedule a free consultation. It's twofold. One, because I can't fully answer your questions without getting all into it. Two, to protect my time and kind of have that boundary. I would rather, like, let's talk about business when I'm actually really prepared to do that, because a lot of times I'm doing something else when I'm responding to these texts or DMs, especially if it's somebody who has my personal number, because I do have a business phone that is the number that's on my website and all that stuff. That's why I don't care about it being on there, because it's not my personal phone number. And with that, I have focuses or whatever that you can have. If you have an iPhone, you know what I mean. So I have like it's on do not disturb during certain hours that are like not business hours. And so even with my friends, and any of them can attest to this, family as well, there is professionalism when you try to hire me for a service. And the thing about it is, going along with this whole thing with professionalism, is folks got to learn how to code switch when necessary, or I prefer to say, assess the environment and act accordingly. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not being fake, it's being true to who you need to be in the environment that you're in. And I just feel like so many people want to, oh, I'm going to be me and I'm going to keep it real. And I just feel like you behaving in that way can close doors that you may wish you could walk through. Your world may stay small because you are not choosing to code switch or whatever you want to call it. With that, poor customer service or not following through with what you say you will do can cause you to lose potential customers. If you say you're going to do something and follow up that day or whatever, follow up that day. If you don't, let them know you can. Let them know that you need more time. Let them know whatever. I've shared on here where I was, for the first time ever in life, behind on a deadline. I let the client know, they were okay with it because they understood why, but I still discounted their final invoice just to make sure they still had a good opinion of their experience with me, just to make sure that they felt like they had a good experience with me. Thankfully, this wasn't my first experience with them, and I have been super on point, really going above and beyond with everything else. But when it's somebody's first time trying to work with you, that will make them not want to support anymore. Like, customer service matters. It is so important. So you got to do better with that. And also, stop expecting others to support you when you are not out here supporting people. And I see this a lot on certain social media platforms where people who are business owners will make posts and they'll be upset that people are not sharing their posts. But then when you go to their page, I don't see them sharing any other entrepreneur's business on their page. Why do you expect somebody to do for you what you're not willing to do for others? You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is, why do you not want to do that for others? Do you feel like if you support others, you're not going to get what you're supposed to get? Because that's not realistic. Because the reality is, what's for you is for you, and it's going to come to you. If anybody goes to my Facebook page or Twitter, Instagram, not so much, because you can't really, well, actually, my Instagram stories, yes, I will share other content creators or business owner stuff to my Instagram stories. But if anybody goes to so basically on all platforms, you will see that I share other entrepreneurs' content, even if they have a similar business and offer similar services than me. Because the reality is, you may not want to, like, some people may not want to support you because it's you. Like, some people may not want to support you because they don't like the fact that you're doing more than what they can, or the fact that they had you in this box of who they thought you should be and you bust out that box. Some people don't like that. And that is literally the reality of how some broken, wounded, miserable people, because you got to be miserable if you out here hating on people. You got to be unhappy with yourself if you're out here hating on people. Because if you're happy with yourself and if you're focusing on what you need to focus on and you're working towards your own goals, you don't really have time to be out here hating on other people. Also, you understand the journey and the grind and whatever. And so you'd rather support. You also understand that, pouring out love is more important because we're all going through stuff. You know what I'm saying? But when you're miserable or very damaged or whatever, it's hard for you to think like that. And so some people may not want to support you simply because it's you. And so you sharing this other person's business is not going to get you any more business from your Facebook friends or Twitter followers or whatever. because they just might not want to support you. So stop expecting from others what you are not willing to do. So let's get into words of wisdom in relationships. So, relationships are not easy, and I'm not even talking intimate relationships. I'm talking about your mama, your sister, your cousins, friends, whatever. People can be hard at times because we all carry our experiences. We all carry past hurts. We all carry whatever into interactions with when we deal with people. Learn how to have difficult conversations with people without immediately getting aggressive. You don't have to buck up to prove a point. You can still remain calm. And furthermore, especially when talking to somebody like me, just because you get aggressive does not make me say, oh my gosh, yes, that aggression just lets me know that they're right. No, it lets me know, like, bruh, ma'am, whatever. You need to learn how to communicate. So I'm the type of person that'll be like, why are you so aggressive? Because I'm really trying to understand, especially if I just asked a question or if like I didn't put out that type of energy. What is going on? So learn how to have those conversations without immediately getting aggressive, right? Learn also how to be open to the fact that more than one perspective can be applicable because life and people and circumstances are complex. More than one thing can be true, and you're not always right. Like, I'm not always right. So this isn't really directed at anybody. This is stuff I tell myself sometimes, even when dealing with kids. And I will even say this, just because you are the parent does not mean that your child is wrong just because you're the parent, especially if your kids are adults. But even if they're not adults yet, we're supposed to be, and I said this before, we're supposed to be raising our kids to prepare them for ultimately being outside of our house. And if inside of our house is not a safe space where we've trained them up to learn how to have these conversations, learn how to advocate for themselves because they felt the freedom and safety and had the space to even advocate for themselves with us as parents, if we're not doing that, we're failing them. So, like, just because you're the parent, it does not mean you're always right. Yes, you have more life experience and all that. In most cases, you have more wisdom, but it doesn't mean that you're right because you only have your perspective and your experience, and your child is a completely different person, also in a completely different world. The way the world was when I was a teenager slash early 20s or whatever versus my kids being a teenager slash early 20s is way different. So you have to factor all of these things. And also, just because something is the way that it's always been doesn't mean that was right. Like, sadly, we have learned, and a lot of like unhealthy, toxic stuff has been passed down from generation to generation until there's that person that's like, you know what? This is not healthy, and I'm not, it stops with me. Like, my kids are not going through this. Until there's that person, a lot of, generational curses are real. You know what I'm saying? Generational blessings can be very real too, but generational curses are real. And so it's kind of like, just because it's always been that way doesn't mean it's actually healthy or productive or helpful. So you're not always right. And so learn how to accept other perspectives than yours. And you could just agree to disagree. It's not always about trying to prove that you're right. And being right shouldn't be more important than the relationship, but also just because somebody is giving a different perspective than yours, it doesn't even necessarily mean that they're trying to say they're right or you're wrong. It's just how they feel. Sometimes you just got to respect that and keep it pushing. And then also, learn how to be okay with walking away from relationships that are not mutually beneficial. Sometimes people were only supposed to be in your life for just a season, and that's okay. Or something I saw on Facebook the other day is sometimes people are not supposed to be in your life once you're healed. Sometimes the unhealed version of you is all that they were ever supposed to experience, because some people benefited from your brokenness. And then I saw something else that said, if you're not the same person that you once were, you don't have any business going in places that you used to go. Sometimes you got to put yourself in new environments around new people so you can have new experience that the new you will appreciate. So you got to be okay. Like, now, mind you, I used to be loyal to a fault. So this is something that I've definitely grown in the past several years, but the reality is, I am no longer that person that just because I've known you forever means that this new person that I met can't show me that they're a more supportive friend than you for what I need at this point in my life, because some people don't allow you to evolve. They always just see you as your struggle. They always just see you as who you once were. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes that could be problematic. So you gotta, you know what I'm saying, learn when to be okay with falling back. It doesn't have to be this dramatic, oh, I'm gonna cut you off. You just kind of fall back. And sometimes life just separates you anyway, and then you just don't need to reach out because it just doesn't make sense. So that's what I got on relationships. Now let's move on to goals. Okay. Now, while you're pursuing a goal, whatever the goal may be, and this is me speaking to myself really this whole episode, I'm always encouraging myself in these things. I don't ever get on here and talk about stuff that I'm not either already walking in or trying to grow in. So let me say that. Like, these are things that I'm reminding myself. You have to be humble enough to ask someone for help if you're struggling to achieve a goal. Now, what that could mean is you may need a mentor. It may mean that you need somebody to be your accountability partner. And with that, the interesting thing that I have seen in my life with accountability is I need the kind of person that's really already there and they're already doing it. And then they can hold me accountable and be bold enough, be whatever enough to actually call me out when they see me slipping. Like, those are the kind of people, if I'm going to have somebody be my accountability partner, is to challenge me to actually help me grow. You don't just let me be okay with whatever. But then also on my side, if I could see that I'm not really on that, don't waste people's time. If I decide that, you know what, this isn't a goal that I actually really want to pursue right now, or I don't have the time or whatever, then I need to tell people that and not have people waste their time trying to drag me along to do something that I don't even really want to do. But at the end of the day, I have to be humble enough to ask people for help if I am trying to achieve a goal that I know it's something that I can do, but I'm just kind of struggling to do it maybe on my own. And the reality is that we were not created to do life alone, but there's that humility and that vulnerability that it takes to actually ask for help. We actually have to be honest with ourselves, though, and realize that we actually need help. This whole I got it out the mud and I got it by myself and solo dolo and all this stuff, it usually comes from a place of hurt. It usually comes from a place of you've been through some things, like you had a lot of trauma, and that's super unfortunate. Or you've had relationships where people have let you down. I can relate to both of those, you know what I'm saying? But those mindsets don't really serve us when we're trying to grow and when we're trying to evolve. So we need to heal and we need to be honest with ourselves about why we feel that way. It is okay to admit that some of maybe the relationships, hell, maybe even family members have let us down and have been just not, I don't want to like bash people, you know what I'm saying? So, but I want to say have had like trash behavior, because sometimes it is trash behavior, not trash people, but trash behavior that has been super harmful. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to fall back from that. I don't care if it's family. If something is unhealthy for you, I do not subscribe to the idea that just because it's family mom, dad, sister, cousin, whatever, that you don't need to establish boundaries or do what's best for you. I'm not saying you should have trash behavior towards that person, but if you've tried and tried and tried and you see you're getting nowhere and they're just unwilling to change, you may need to put some distance and love them from afar. That is okay. And then what you'll notice is as you like kind of remove the people that are just, it's not mutually beneficial, as I said earlier, what I've seen in my life is that then your world will be opened up to mutually beneficial relationships. And the thing about that is, once you start getting healthy, that's when it's hard, y'all. You know what I'm pause, but that's when it's difficult because then you have to unlearn the unhealthy coping skills, the unhealthy ways that you used to navigate situations or relationships or whatever. And you have to like learn how to accept, understand that you are worthy of love, support, being cherished, and all these things. And I'm just saying, in like friendships, like your friends should support what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Your friends, when you tell them good news, even if they're maybe not, like maybe y'all are working towards the same goal or whatever, and you get there before them, they should still be happy for you. There shouldn't be no hater stuff with the people that are in your circle. If there is, that is not the right circle for you. Like, that's just not healthy. You don't have to accept that just to have people around you. Be okay with being alone for a season while you figure out what's best for you, and then the right people will come to you. And then I'm speaking from experience with that. Now, sometimes the right people were already there, but you were so busy investing in the wrong people that you weren't paying attention to the right people that have been there. So sometimes it's that. Sometimes it'll be people that you'll meet. So like the pod crew, for example. This is a group of ladies that I met on Twitter as fans of their show. Had not met them until earlier this year. But let's get into that trip, y'all, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have even been able to go on that trip. Because when we planned the trip, I did have a full time job, so it would have been fine for me to be able to go. But then by the time the trip happened, life drastically changed. I no longer had my full time job. I was full time in my company, but it wasn't at the place yet to really be taking trips. And so the reality is that if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been able to go. And the crazy thing about having supportive friends is not once has anyone ever thrown that in my face. And you know how people could be. They'll do stuff for you and throw it in your face every chance that they get. And that literally has never happened. That literally has never happened that I've ever felt like anything was done that they didn't genuinely want to do. And that's anything that's happening. You know what I'm saying? We still do birthday gifts for everybody, all that. And so it's kind of like when you have supportive friends, it's a beautiful thing. So if you don't have that, it is very much okay to remove yourself from the environments, the jobs, the relationships, whatever, that you are not being valued and cherished and where things are not mutually beneficial. But with that, back to the point, when you're working towards a goal, though, make sure that you reach out to someone, be humble enough, and ask people for help. And if you don't feel like the people around you, you can ask for help, find new people, network, go to networking events, go to conferences, go to webinars, join Facebook groups or whatever you got to do, because there are a lot of people. The world is so much bigger than whatever city you live in. Twitter shows me that. Twitter, for sure. TikTok too, because you literally could see content from anywhere in the world on both of those platforms. The world is so much bigger than whatever city you live in. And so get out there, meet new people, do what you got to do, and get the help that you need. So that is my episode for y'all this week. That if you don't even understand how much of a struggle this episode was to record, but here we are at the end. Yay! Studio audience should be back next week, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you're taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and in your relationships. and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Ladies and gents, this concludes transmission. Tune in next time for a whole new edition. Another adventure and mission to share, be heard, and clarify the vision of this whole new world for